Vanakkam, Sasriyakal, good evening and welcome once again to Ganesh Shot. और गणेश शॉट में आज एक हटके प्रोग्राम करेंगे, something different. We'll talk about Mao, Deng, Xi Jinping, and the personality impact he has had on India, and in fact all of them, right? So that we're gonna do it with General Dushyant. Good evening, General Dushyant. Welcome to the show. An honor to have you back with us.
Good evening, sir. Good to be with you back again. And yeah, let's try something
Yeah,
different.
let's try something different. हर बार पाकिस्तान और चाइना के बारे में बात करने से अच्छा है कुछ और
Good.
बात करेंगे आज, right?
Let's try.
And
Let's
yeah, we will talk something different.
absolutely.
इसी बीच मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि ए, या 23 मई को यानी कि ट्यूसडे के दिन
Yeah.
we're going to have an update and open house, right? I'm going to give an update. We'll talk something about Pakistan. A lot of questions which are coming to me about Russia and Ukraine war and what lessons to be drawn. We'll see what lessons. Of course, I've done a video on it, but I'll still go over a few. And how do we correlate it with the Chinese, scene? And then, of course, a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions, very interesting questions, if I might say. Uh, Unfortunately, when you take a subject and a few questions come up, you're bound by time and all that. So I'll give a lot of time for people to ask questions. Many people have said कि भाई आप लाइव शो में पूछिए, तो ये लाइव शो में आके वो क्वेश्चंस डालिए, I'll answer. Okay. In the meanwhile, we'll get back to what General Dushyant has to talk about and his presentation, which I'm sure will be interesting. Over to you, General Dushyant.
Thank you, sir. Actually, uh, the question about the three major personalities of China who have shaped its destiny in the past since the Communist Party of China came into power after throwing out the Kuomintangs uh, has been quite colorful, checkered, and with glorious periods also in between. And there are these three leaders who have really shaped the Chinese destiny. And I am referring to Mao and then Deng and thereafter Xi. Uh, in fact, you will realize that there is a common thread of the other two leaders, that is Deng and Xi. You see, Deng was purged by Mao, and Xi's father was purged by Mao. Somewhere it throws a question to somebody's mind: are personalities in China bigger or the Communist Party of China bigger? That we will keep it to the end and see as to which one is bigger, or both are symbiotic with each other. With this, we will get into our personality comparison. What I have done for comparing is, first of all, since these three leaders have lived in three different, or one of them is living, have lived in different eras, in different situations. So, is it fair to compare them? In my personal opinion, no, it's not fair to compare them, but they do throw certain important commonalities and similarities which have shaped China. So first I have compared it with an aggregator. That means a political scientist or a political personality who was an aggregator, who would always like to look at the similarities of the personalities. Then I have tried to compare it with the expertise which I had of human resource development, where I was an instructor, where we'll be looking at simply the traits method of analysis of personality of a person. And the third one will be a current scientist, political scientist, who has compared it based on observed behavior. So you will get a three different results, right? So then we can make a reference. The first one is Henry Kissinger, which most of us would be knowing, those who follow the geopolitics. He has tried to look at the positives of each of these leaders. So first, if you take Mao, what he says is Mao unified China, and rightly so. Actually, more than unified, he has expanded also China. I mean, he included the other parts, peripheries of the proper core Chinese, Han Chinese area, and added Tibet, etc. Xinjiang, Tibet, Mongolia, all these three, Manchuria, there they call it. So all these three regions were added into them, and they are continuing to expand into the South China Sea, etc. Basically, his philosophy is continuing. But my view is that he was a revolutionary, an autocrat, purged his opponents, including Deng, which I referred to, and he believed that solution was always in revolutions. So whatever problems with the China, the country had, the only solution was create a revolution. Then you look at Deng. Deng himself had been purged, but where his personality stands out is that he was a fighter in the sense he lied low, hide your intentions, bide your time. I think he learned it from this particular incident when he was purged by Mao. He hid his intentions, lied low, and then when the opportunity came his way, he actually transformed China. So in my view, the golden period of China, we must give credit to Deng Xiaoping. The
If I
only
may
blot,
add, if I may add
yeah,
one thing is that Deng was also a superb organizer.
yes,
He was so
absolutely.
superb at organizing that he, even after purging, they had to bring him back. He was so efficient that they could not ignore him.
Yes, he had his links maintained at the levels which were
Levels, yeah.
important, which are important in a monolithic party like CCP or Chinese Communist Party. Also, he for the first time evolved a new concept of development for China, which was referred to him by as socialism with Chinese characteristics. We'll talk a little more about it as we go ahead. So I would say he's the father of modern China, without doubt, with Tiananmen Square as a blot on his overall performance. Mind you, there are some reports which say that possibly he was not in favor of a hard hand, but he let it go. And when he found that ultimately the Chinese Communist Party, PLA, had succeeded, so therefore he kept quiet about it. He did not really oppose it. Then you look at Jiang Zemin. What Henry Kissinger says is that he got this China into the international arena. He got them into the WTO in 2001, and from there, if you see their growth curve, it really shot up. I mean, the growth started going to the levels of 8 to 9 to 10% per year, so which was a very good step, I suppose, which Jiang Zemin took. Credit for this should go to him, as also overcoming the ill effects of Tiananmen Square. I think he played down China in a manner that the Tiananmen Square was slowly forgotten, and China was looked upon as a different entity, possibly more cooperative than competitive in nature. But when Hu Jintao took over from Jiang Zemin, I think this many people refer to it as the era of lost years. That means China somewhere started going downhill because of his lackluster personality, performance, and I think low risk taking capabilities. That was one of his biggest nemesis. That he really didn't uh, come out with anything which was going to keep China moving further. In Chanakya's Niti, you call it as you have to be always in motion. I think
Yeah, he was
somewhere,
drifter. He was a drifter.
yeah,
He
somewhere
let things drift.
yeah, he let China rumble along. That was, I
Yeah.
think, the mistake. On the other hand, if you look at Xi Jinping, he is leading China by taking ideas from all previous. This is Kissinger's statement, right? What he feels is that Xi Jinping picked up ideas of every one of these guys on top, which we have referred to, and he has started moving China with that particular tool which he has. But is it succeeding? Is the question which I ask. If he succeeds in taking China to the cleaners, he'll be comparable to Mao and Gorbachev. Is my assessment for the future. To me, it looks like he's going to follow this particular route, because as we go ahead, I'll tell you what kind of personalities which come out both as per the political scientists and as well as per the traits analysis. right? So we'll move to the next one and discuss, because so let's see. uh, what do you consider before you discuss a leader? First of all, the leader himself. Everybody is born with certain qualities, and everybody acquires certain qualities because of his environment through which he goes through, or through which he rises up in a hierarchy, or in an organization. So Mao was, in my view, a charismatic autocratic person. It has been proved scientifically, and I've done a study on this, that Mao was considered a very highly charismatic personality, very high charismatic personality. Uh, you look at Deng, I think Deng was bureaucratic democratic. The point which you made about organizational capabilities, this is
Yeah,
where it comes out. This is where it comes out that Deng had this ability to get people to work towards a common goal. I think that was with their complete compliance and with their full cooperation. Whereas the autocrat will force his view. Deng had a little open view on everything, and he showed it on ground also. His behavior on ground and his personality matched, except, as I said, Tiananmen Square, which is a blot on it. Now you look at Xi Jinping. What Kissinger said, na, कि सबका उसने थोड़ा थोड़ा मिला लिया. So what he has done, he is using bureaucratic methods, but autocratic in his approach. That means he is using a rule or a law to serve his ends. So this is the difference between the three. I think somewhere he thought that he's going to be smart. He will become a little bit of Mao and become a little bit of Deng. Result is that he's not leading to anywhere. Anyway.
yeah. You know what? I
Mhm.
read a article in New York Times some time back where
Yeah.
it was said, Xi Jinping
Hmm.
looked dull and uninspiring,
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah, I read that. I read that. Yes.
Right. And that's why I laughed out again when I saw this. And that's because if there was, you know, Deng had said, hide your strength and bide your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Xi Jinping did hide his strength and he bided his time till he became the president.
President. President.
Uske baad he's done the ulta.
He's done ulta. And as you see, as we go along, that will come out very, very clear, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, and another thing which you notice in my analysis of the personality, I have not rated him a charismatic personality.
Yeah, he is not.
He's not a charismatic personality.
Yeah,
He is, like I said, a bureaucratic autocratic kind of a
yeah,
person. Okay, let's look at the situation. Each one had a different situation. Like Mao was in a period when China was still fledgling. It was a nation in, I mean, it was a communist nation in formation. So therefore his period of characterized by a lot of upheavals. So you required a very dynamic person who could even control adversities. I think that is where Mao stood a little higher than all these guys. Then you look at Deng. Now Deng was looking at a China which was slightly educated, but still isolated from the world. I think he realized this thing, that if China has to go ahead, he must get it into the world community, or
order.
global community. That is the success of China. Now, what you're looking at, Z, I think that has got hidden because of
Yeah,
because of
distortion.
the slide. But what Z is doing is, Z is operating in a new era where China is already at a pedestal from where he has the danger of going down or going up. I am afraid. I yesterday I did a program in which I showed the graph of GDP. Actually, China
Yeah,
is a GDP hungry kind of a country, and you will
it's
realize
going
that,
down.
yeah, no, in 2023, it's going to go up to about roughly nearing
Yeah, yeah,
5.
4.5%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then
But
it will
from
go
there,
down again.
from there till 2028, at least the projections of World Bank are that it is going
Mhm.
to come down to about 2.93, which means tanking for 5 years is a major problem. 5 year plan तो उसका भट्टे में बैठ जाएगा, तो आगे कहाँ जाएगा वो? Okay, that's something which Xi Jinping's situation is what he is seeing in front of him. He is responsible for it, given the policies which he has followed in the last few years. Then you come at the group. Now, as far as the group was concerned, Mao was totally dealing with peasantry. uh, Deng was in a 50-50 kind of a situation. But what about Z? C is dealing with a highly urbanized China. Do you know that the sectoral share of GDP is 7% only for agriculture? India is at 20%, 20.59%. Industry is at 39 of China, and India is around 25. See, the balance which India is maintaining is ensuring its food security. But China is getting lopsided, and I think C has still not got hold of this. Although he's trying to reclaim and go outside and create some farmable, arable lands, etc. But I don't think it will meet the requirement of a country like China.
Hey, in fact, what you're saying is right because Xi Jinping, I, he is actually aware of the whole story. Because हर तीसरा 2 हफ्ता 3 हफ्ते के बाद न्यूज आइटम comes out where he goes to some technical university or to agricultural universities and he talks of increasing farm production and
Yeah,
agriculture.
that's
He
right.
also knows that his food security is at risk. इसने बोला कि our rice bowl cannot be in someone else's lap.
Correct.
He
But
is aware, but he's
yeah,
not been able to do anything about it. That's
yeah.
the trick.
That is because he's not been able to manage the environment well.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's that. You remember we spoke about water security,
Yeah, yeah,
etc.
yeah, yeah. No, no.
So somewhere I think China is facing even bigger problem than Pakistan as far as
Food is,
land and water security are concerned.
I mean, let me throw it in. They, which I have also discussed many times, they have uncontrollable problems. I mean, I don't know whether they have this problem under control of lack of arable land, lack
Yes,
of agricultural produce, right,
water,
and water, and this is all compounded by some of the biggest climate threats it's facing. The
absolutely.
climate threats you and I face is nothing compared to what China faces,
What China is facing. Okay,
right?
so
And I
let's
mean, this is my 2 bits, if I may add. This is one of the biggest problems China is going to have as days go by.
as days goes by. Sir, we'll move forward, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
Go to we'll go to the next one, sir. Sir, now I will compare the traits. How have we worked out the traits of the two leaders? The method followed by this is a study done by an institution, I think Rand, if I'm not sure. I'm forgetting the site from where
yeah,
I.
yeah. That's okay.
But this is an authentic study which has been carried out. They have picked up these speeches of the two leaders, that is
Yeah,
Mao and Xi Jinping, picked up the words, key words, and then derived their personality. So there is a method in madness while carrying out the analysis. So first of all, they have taken into account that Mao was a revolutionary leader in a revolutionary period, and he was in a secluded environment and from the international community. So that factor has been taken by them into account. Then, in the speeches, they found that Mao was mostly pessimistic in his tone, which came as a surprise to me, and he was highly critical of the others. That means he was actually highlighting the problems of the country. So therefore he was pessimistic in nature, and then he attributed all this to the others, not to himself. And
yeah.
that is where
That's there.
that
Because
is a
if you remember, he is a product of that Boxer revolution. He is a product of the nationalist movement. After all, he and
correct,
Chiang Kai-shek were students of Sun Yat-sen,
correct,
right? And this fellow fell out. Then the Japanese invaded,
correct.
and a whole lot of things happened.
Yeah, so
So,
you're right.
yeah,
Century of humiliation was playing on these guys' mind, you know. So let's take the. He was in a constant struggle and evolution. That was his second, third characteristic which they found. Then keywords, they have been compiled like mathematics, and the gist of these keywords was people he has used the maximum. The people, the people, the people. I mean, his speech was always characterized by the people. Then enemies was the second highest used word. Enemies, whether internal or external. This defines his characteristics. And the third for these two was that the way out is revolution. Then he tried to advance the CCP, but he did not hesitate in breaking it also through a revolution, parallel revolution. And that's how the Gang of Four, etc., came up during the Cultural Revolution, which everybody is aware. We're not going to waste our time on that. Then speeches were given before every major initiative, sir. And most of his initiatives, because he was pessimistic in nature, in the end resulted in crackdowns and purges. So somewhere the personality of Mao is getting evolved through these scientifically correlated and collected speeches of his. His over, I think, over 200 speeches have been taken into account in this.
Yeah, and
Whereas, whereas for yeah,
one
whereas for
point,
Hanji sir, go ahead.
Mao, you also have to see that he lived in an environment and he was leading China in an environment where he had problems with the nationalists on
Yeah,
one side, he had problems with the Japanese on the other side, and
correct.
he had problems with the colonial powers also on the third side.
Yeah, Hong Kong, etc. So he
Yeah,
was like Taiwan,
he
Hong
was
Kong.
Taiwan, Hong Kong, और ये इनके साथ तो and especially the Britishers, after the Britishers
Yes.
had the biggest presence there, right? And the church played a big role in China, especially in South China.
Okay, okay,
So he that is why this fellow was actually very offensive and all that. So
correct.
he had his problems. He's shaped by the
Yes.
situation and the environment.
So that is why I'm saying, sir, that he was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
person who he had that charisma within him to
I'm
lead
all
people.
I'm doing is adding on to whatever you're saying.
Definitely, sir. If you look at Z, sir, Z has been, in a post-revolutionary period, China on the rise and member of the global community. We've already discussed. His personality comes across as optimistic, slightly critical of current practices of the party. That is where he's slightly going wrong. Unity, cooperation, moving forward, and new ideas seem to be the key words of his.
Hmm.
That are the words. What happens on ground is different story.
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's okay.
when he's
Yeah,
talking of unity, he's talking of cooperation, he's talking of moving forward together, and he's talking of new ideas to lead China into a new era. That's the way he talks about. Then he believes in general and economic reforms. He's working towards that. He's working towards eradication of corruption. Chinese dreams for a new era, I've already spoken about, expresses how the new administration will be oriented and to stress the expectations from the CCP leaders. He lays down that I expect CCP leaders to follow A, B, C, D. It's kind of a diktat which he gives out in his speeches.
yeah,
All this personality has led actually to him to go in for campaigns such as anti-corruption, moving the Chinese dream forward. So
yeah.
like him, he is also trying to benchmark his initiatives with speeches and then take it forward, sir.
Yeah,
So
if I may add to these words, which off late from the
mm-hmm.
20th Party Congress, if you see,
Yeah,
and also in the two sessions, which is the thrust,
yeah,
is on security.
that's right. We'll
Security
come.
now, these it's coming back, and unity, cooperation, moving forward, new ideas were basically fundamentally an internal dimension.
Yes,
In the external dimension, whether you call it, he converted the global development initiative into a security initiative and now into a civilizational initiative.
correct,
And he talks of security, and he talks of threats unseen in the past century and things like that.
correct,
So
correct.
that
Which is
part,
going to yes,
which
sir.
today is, over, will have, which is overshadowing his thinking.
Absolutely. So that is where now my third analyst comes into play, which is
Okay.
Schonberg.
Uh,
Schonberg, he is
Shambhav,
a
yeah.
full Yeah, he is a political scientist, right?
Mhm.
But after I summarize the traits analysis of his personality, we will cover that.
Yeah,
So there were actually these six major heads under which the personality types of the two leaders was covered. First is conceptual complexity, which means that given a complex situation, how do the two leaders behave? In the case of Mao, he's rated as high. That means he's not likely to seek information from the others before taking a decision. He believes in his capability that he will be able to surmount the problem. If you look at Xi Jinping, it is medium. That means he's open to certain ideas, certain thoughts from the others as well. And that is where the bureaucratic personality dimension comes in. Belief in control over events, both are medium. That means he they do not believe that they can really control the events. Okay, any major event which is happening, whether in the country or outside the country, etc. But on ground, it is not borne by facts. On ground, these guys have actually done the other way around. They have introduced initiatives to control events. So somewhere personality trait analysis comes out a little different from the observed behavior. The reason being, sir, and I'll tell you, sir, which is there in the fourth bullet after we cover the other two. Self confidence. Mao had a greater self confidence than Xi Jinping, which reflects in the way, like you just said, the New York Times had a photograph of. In fact, there is an article which says a lone man at the top about Xi Jinping. So
yeah.
currently he is for 600 days he did not go out of his country. Somewhere the self confidence has taken a beating as far as Xi Jinping is concerned. Task orientation, both have said medium, medium. These are the traits under which we analyze
Yeah,
personality.
yeah, I understood.
But in my view, again, I think task orientation of Xi Jinping is quite high, and so is that of Mao, because observed behavior is a different.
Hmm.
Then you look at the distrust, and this is where you connect with the belief in control over events. That means their speeches are a facade. In the heart of heart, both are high on distrust. They do not trust others. And Mao was very, very high on distrust. He would not believe you even if he's talking to you. There is an incident when he was negotiating with the nationalists. He agreed to them and went back and started the revolution, Long
Yeah,
March. He just did the opposite.
yeah.
He never,
No one trusted Mao.
yes.
Not even
So
his own friends trusted Mao. In fact, he didn't have any.
absolutely. In group bias, both have
Hmm.
shown in their speeches that they have low in group bias, which means, sir, within the society, they do not have biases against A, B, C sect. I mean, Han Chinese or
Hmm.
Tibetans or whatever it is. But on ground, what they have done,
It's different.
it's totally different. So somewhere they come out as facade like all dictators do.
So that means they have a schism.
Yes,
So
they have,
the main thing is this chap's had a schism,
yes.
uh, and that schism will show up into some kind of irrationality at some point of time or the other.
Sometimes, and that is where we are saying that the comment which you made the other day, I think it's in one of the talks which I was listening to, is that Imran and Xi Jinping are
Xi
the best friends.
Jinping. I don't I don't mind I don't mind repeating it.
Yeah,
Look, in my opinion, Xi Jinping and Imran Khan are India's best friends because
best,
these chaps
absolutely.
at the helm are destroying their respective countries.
Correct. So somewhere you see, sir, all these connects. When you give an opinion and you do a analysis through a different tool, somewhere they all connect to each
They
other,
all
and they,
connect. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They, I mean, look, if all of us think that we cannot read the Chinese, they are
yeah,
inscrutable and all. But I
correct,
think if you focus on what you have to do
correct.
and you put your mind to it, it'll all come out.
Absolutely.
It's not rocket science. After all, he's also got a brain, even if it's a
Correct.
noodle eating brain. So be it.
Right, sir. Next,
Right.
next,
So yeah,
yeah, next, let's go. Sir, so now we come to the political scientist,
yeah.
Shanbog. Shambog. He's basically a professor of Asian Studies in political science and international affairs, and director of China Policy Program in the Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University. So he comes highly recommended person, and his articles are generally respected by people. What he says, sir, the similarities between Xi Jinping and Mao are that Xi has never criticized Mao, including purging of his father. So
Yeah, actually, I
somewhere
find I mean, this is something which I would like you to probably see. Why has he not done this?
that is what I'm saying, sir.
Uh-huh.
Because why he hasn't done it is because he somehow wants to emulate Mao.
That.
So if he starts criticizing him, how
Mm.
will he emulate him?
Okay.
And he says that even if he purged his father, he did it for the right cause,
Okay.
because he is himself going to purge and is
All right.
purging and is purging the way Bo Xilai, the way Hu
Mm.
Juntao, the
ये
way
सबको कर रहा है.
Li Kue Kang, all these guys have been shown the door, is just to say when I am not criticized, my father's purging. Who are
How
these
can I
guys?
let you go? Who are these guys? Yeah.
So that is
So
the
so
that this
that
question.
means, if I put things into perspective, it's that I'll just go back in the slides. Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
see the slide again, because we'll have to put this in perspective. He wants to
See,
be bigger than the rest.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So he thinks he's already there, and he's now
With
going to
that.
go up.
Yeah.
Going. This is going to become 1, 2, 3 now, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah, yeah. I agree with you completely. That's the, yeah. So
Yeah,
this is the
go
one.
back.
Yeah, yeah, this is the one.
Both are proud nationalists. I think
Yeah,
that it goes without saying. Mao and Xi are both dictators. Mao a totalitarian and Xi a neo-totalitarian. Why I have referred to Xi Jinping as neo-totalitarian? Sir? He's created a facade of opening up, facade of
yeah,
unity, cooperation, all that thing which you heard of. So he's covered his totalitarianism into some kind of a garb of acceptability. Both have fostered sycophantic cults and personalities, very clearly seen now in Xi Jinping's third tenure. He has virtually removed every opposition, right from the party congress up to the
yeah, yeah. He is absolutely, वो पूरा उसका उसने साफ कर दिया उसको.
and including the government, including the CMC. Everywhere he's got people connected to him.
And this
Both
is
have
something which, no, no, mind you, this is something which even Mao couldn't do.
yes, Mao, but Mao had his cult. Mao had his cult, a
No, no,
charismatic
Mao had
person.
his. I mean, what I'm trying to put across is Mao had his cult, but
Yeah,
Mao had his detractors also,
that's right, because he was charismatic.
charismatic. And Mao, though he purged people like Deng Xiaoping, he could not purge them the way this fellow is doing.
Yes, although they say that Mao has purged more number of people than Xi Jinping as per the record. But you have to see Mao's tenure and Xi Jinping's tenure.
No,
If
that is
Xi
what.
Jinping, if Xi Jinping increases his tenure, probably he'll match Mao.
No, 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 no. What I'm trying to put across is in terms of purging is that Xi Jinping has been more effective at purging the system than
Yes,
Mao was.
yes, that's because handle of bureaucratic.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, and both have introduced their thoughts.
Yes.
The Mao thought and the Xi Jinping thought. We'll
Yeah.
not go into what are his thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, we
Mao
know
has,
that.
Mao has despised differences. If you see,
Yeah.
Mao despised institutions of the government and CCP, almost
Mhm.
destroyed the party during the Cultural Revolution. Xi believes in strong institutions, but under his control.
Yeah.
Xi venerates past and traditional culture of China. Mao actually was a total
Yeah, he
hardcore
did. Yeah.
dedicated communist.
Okay.
Mao did not pay any attention to laws, but this is where I'm telling, sir. Xi uses them as instrument of rule.
Lawfare.
He, yes,
Lawfare.
he will use the rule to tighten the screws.
Tighten the screws.
Right, sir. We go to the next one. Now let's see the Zheng Ji, Deng and Xi's comparison. Mostly people would be knowing. I want to focus on the first bullet, sir. Deng emphasized on socialism with Chinese characteristics. That means Deng realized socialism has a, a particular set of rules, but Chinese characteristics have to be implanted on them to make it suitable for China. Look at what Z says. Z in his speeches says socialism with Chinese characteristics is the socialism.
Correct.
See the difference between the two. Removed rest of it, everybody knows, sir. He was an open, collective,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no personality cults, merit-based recruitment, promotions, intra-party. Whereas Z has been just the opposite of everything. He has to be having his loyalist. He has to have his own way. All those things are there in the things. C, on the other hand, has zero tolerance for intellectual freedom. This fellow, no, he will listen to your idea. I mean, Z will seek your ideas, but ultimately do what he wishes to do, right? Foreign policy was based on that, famous saying, hide your strength, bide your time. He has placed military modernization first. Z had in the modernization goals.
It was the
uh,
last.
Deng had the last.
That part of the four modernizations which he started, military
It's
was the
last.
last. That, yeah.
Deng was last, and here it is first, and that is where your first point, which you said, over securitization is coming.
Over, yeah.
uh,
Everything is over securitized.
Securitization is coming in the approach of Xi Jinping. So, therefore, Xi Jinping is likely to take more irrational steps than possibly what was happening in the past, sir. And this is, unfortunately, to my mind, would be reflecting in both internal policies and external policies. How much of it, unless there are some very good advisors whose ideas he decides to take, I think, and that's a question which we are unable to answer at this stage.
Let me connect it to something on ground. What you said. Actually, you said something very important. I want to highlight it.
Yeah.
You said that Xi Jinping tends to be more irrational and take irrational decisions. If he is to be more irrational, then India has a problem. The reason
Yes.
being, rationality suggests that he should go towards Taiwan.
Correct.
Irrationality suggests that he should come towards India. And the thing on ground is that in the past 10 years, he's turned more towards India militarily than
Absolutely.
any other one in the history of China.
Correct.
And
Correct.
he's not gone anywhere towards Taiwan. And yet, most of us believe that Taiwan is his first priority and not India.
He's showing only teeth to Taiwan,
Yeah,
whereas whereas biting the India.
biting in India. That's why I wanted to highlight this and take the
Then,
slide out and have a one-to-one between you and
yeah,
me on that.
glare at Taiwan, bite
Right?
India.
Yeah, fight. So he's hiding his strength here
Yeah.
and biding his time against us. So that's what we have to be very careful of with this fellow.
Possibly he believes India is a low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
The
maybe.
common perception which the world community has, that India does show a very soft projection of its power. So
Yes.
that is something which we have to take care of in our approach as far as
Yeah,
we
yeah,
are
I
concerned.
agree with you completely. And that is the reason why we do these off-key analysis, because it's from this off-key
Somebody should
analysis, thinking out of the box, we'll get something.
have,
Otherwise,
and
तो
somebody
आप रो, रोज बात
correct.
करते रहो, मिसाइल का इतना रेंज है, रशिया के पास इतने मिसाइल है, हमारे पास इतना प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी है, वो उसके कोई फायदा नहीं है, बिकॉज उसको सोच नहीं है, तो क्या फायदा हुआ?
Will
क्या
and determination, yeah, will to use your power is
is
something
more important.
comes from personalities, right? So
Yes,
and
yes,
that's
yes.
very
That's why.
important. Yeah. So let's go to
Okay.
the. I think we have finished this. Let's go to the next one. And this is now coming to the outcomes. What we were talking of, the impacts. The impact of core leadership on conceptual approach towards the world as such. Mao had a deceived distrust and a closed expansionist kind of an approach. Deng had a pragmatic and a realistic, high intention, bite time, economic predominance approach, and therefore he was slightly more confident. But Z, which is important for us, what does he do? Couched international relations, facade of global peace, and cooperation to cover his expansionist intent. Debt trap, military bases, all these are uh, things which he's doing just the opposite of what he should have done till he reaches a particular level. So therefore, I think he's more dangerous from that point of view, that uh, he is doing both together. He's not waiting for the time to come. He's hiding his intention, but immediately acting upon them also.
Yeah, I agree with you
So,
completely.
so that time lag is not there. What Deng had in his mind, that yes, give yourself, hide your intentions for a longer period. He feels that probably that time is over now. We have hidden our intentions quite enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we have the power, but we must remind Z that his expenditure of 260 odd billion dollars is nowhere near, is 6 times less than the American expenditure.
Oh, it's not only that. The point is that we
I'm
have
talking
to
the
be,
simply hard power, sir.
yeah, hard power. No, I'm also talking about the fact that what you said again. The important point about Z, which you highlighted in this last slide, is while Deng Xiaoping said hide your intention and bide your time. This fellow feels that it's his time.
This time has
He
come.
feels his time has come. So why should I
Yes.
hide it?
Why should I hide it now?
Why
The
should
hide
I
has
hide
gone out
it?
of hide has gone
The-
out of window.
we- uh, uh, so let's be open and clear about it. I think that's
Correct.
the important thing which you have highlighted, which I think we need to note.
And we should take a note of it.
Note of this. Yes, I am with you completely.
I mean, we should be very careful with the forthcoming G20. The way he has started giving statements, etc. We need to really secure our house well for that event to go
Well,
successful.
in especially in this one in tourism, one in Srinagar.
That's what I'm saying. So that
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
I'm referring to that one. Okay. So, what can India expect? Greater emphasis on conflict over cooperation. I think we should forget that there is going to be any more cooperation as a dimension. It is likely to remain conflictual as far as the relation is concerned. Keep its regional competition on the boil, which is India, and he will continue to do those, like you said, biting of India's, vulnerabilities which are there in front of him, and isolate India internationally and regionally. It has already started as far as the Srinagar case is concerned. He, they are already building up a environment where they are trying to, come to a kind of a solution, kind of a narrative where they're saying that having a G20 in Srinagar, etc., is not uh, advisable. Trying to
Yeah,
make a movement out of it. This is all reflecting in what I have listed here on the slide, just for the information of people. So therefore, we expect these three major threads to work against India in the future, based purely on their personality analysis, which has taken into account an aggregator, a political scientist, and a traits analysis management,
yeah, and it is also being reflected on ground.
and as being reflected on ground.
Yeah, it is corroborated on ground, so it gives credence to what we normally talk of off the handle, right?
Correct. Next, sir. So, what can we expect in the future? A synthesized profile of C. Child from a banished father's family to become the most powerful man in China, and now maneuvering to become the most powerful man in the world. Dangerous, highly dangerous. A
Yep.
person with a very high ambitious intent. Autocratic nationalist with a steely resolve, intolerance to opposition, and high ambition appear to be characteristics, breaking the concentric circle theory. The idea of BRI, etc., came up basically to go beyond the first year, which they have still not been able to break up. And we've been speaking about the
Mhm.
forefronts, etc. He doesn't want to get hemmed into this forefront opposition which he has around him. And of course, nationalist ideology will continue to continue to dictate his behavior. He'll be coercive by nature, sir. He'll be coercive by nature, and in any negotiation we should be prepared for that, sir. What can we expect in the future? Xi Jinping thought socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era has an agenda, sir. And these agendas are reasserting the state economy, overtly rooting out corruption, but covertly eliminating his
Elimination. Elimination.
opposition.
Opposition.
Yeah. Enhancing parties read his image.
Yeah.
Enhancing party image is what he's speaking. But given the analysis which we did, enhancing his own image.
Yeah, that's
Almost,
what he's done. That's what he
yeah,
did with in the 20th Party Congress when he said two establishes.
correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Almost eliminated the role of senior veteran. Sir, there was a trend in China that even though he had relinquished, Deng had relinquished, before that Mao had relinquished, they used to continue to give CCP a direction, give the new leader a direction. All that he has eliminated. He just told them, thank you, partner. Goodbye,
Get
Tata.
lost. Mm.
Goodbye,
Yeah, I
Tata.
agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
Firm
Yeah.
but overtly polite denial towards Indian issues. We
Yeah.
cannot expect an agreement as of today, sir, on any issue. Facade of a peace broker will continue. The so-called famous peace plan, which you heard,
It's
that
all
is,
bunk.
it's all going to go bunk. As far as the what is the outcome of the observed behavior, China's poor and deteriorating international reputation, as measured by public opinion, poor human rights record. I think he's going to slide down because of these reasons. Human
Mm.
rights record, Hong Kong, military build-up opposite Pacific and the opposite Pacific and opposite India, wolf warrior diplomacy. He is giving fuel to fire. He is
Mm.
appointed the father of wolf warrior diplomacy as the defense minister,
Mm.
sorry,
Yeah.
foreign minister, as the foreign
Mm.
minister.
Kingan. He
So
was the original wolf warrior.
original wolf warrior.
Mm.
Uh, Claims to the South and East China Sea are going to continue to remain in his focus. The United States is already seen as a common threat in Russia and China, and it is one reason why China and Russia relations are so close. But will Russia align with China? No. Why? Because of Russia's own past glory and stance, and of course, Putin is a much more harder autocrat than Xi
No, yeah,
Jinping,
he's not only autocrat, he's quite a crafty autocrat also.
and he has the willingness to use power, sir,
Yes. Whereas
which
this chap doesn't have.
he develops cold feet.
Yeah.
He develops cold feet. Sir. I think we've come to the end of our presentation.
Yeah.
So this is just to say that continued build-up and border-level transgressions along the northern. This is on the ground. In the next 10 to 12 years, we will see this. Economic competition will intensify, sir. Technological dominance. I think this is where we will have to really focus on, and this is where he will try to overshadow India. And India is
India.
doing it, and India will have to navigate through a mix of times, sir,
That's there
and
no doubt.
and
Okay.
patience. This is
I
your
you
say.
know,
You
yeah,
can
what
take over.
I'll put this across. I did this as part of my economy study, right? But it is relevant here. Now, if
Yeah,
you see these cartoons, in the first cartoon, which is in the center, he's trying to follow Deng's footsteps. In
that's
the
right.
right bottom cartoon, he's pushed out Deng and he's shook hands with Mao. And in the right top cartoon, he's riding a dragon to be above Mao and Deng. He's a
Absolutely.
complex guy. And
Correct.
these are caught across by three different, guy things. So you see that this man is quite a guy. He's quite a complex chap. Okay. Now let me go through these bullet points very quickly. Mao did the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward. Everyone knows, documented, unitary, very clear, whatever it goes. Deng Xiaoping, apart from everything else, he also, blessed China with a one-child policy. In fact, it is
Blessed.
curse. It's a
Blessed.
curse. नहीं blessed or cursed जो भी बोलो आप. हाँ?
Yes.
So वो एक शाप है उनके लिए. That will ensure that China will eventually decline. Okay. You look at Z. I call it the great leap backward, and I've written an article about it. Now, if you see his Z thought and the great leap backward and the BRI are of one at one point of time in the first part of his tenure. So that is, he showed one set of traits there. In the second part of his tenure, which is, his second tenure, or rather his second term at
Com-
the top. He
Common
spoke
prosperity.
of common prosperity, zero COVID, dual circulation, and he cracked down on big tech, ed tech, real estate, all that. And then in the 20th Party Congress, he spoke of two establishments and two safeguards. And then he
Correct.
started this geet of security. Matlab, he changed course in this at the end of the second 5 year. The third 5 year term, he is starting with another story. He talks of technology. He talks of switch from China, which can double its economy by 2035, which he said in 5 years back. Now he
Yes.
says black swan and grey rhino events he expects. Okay, but he still talks of a sinocentric world order. And his idea, I mean, his very core idea is he wants open doors for China, but China will keep its doors firmly shut for others. Okay,
Absolutely.
so that's his problem, and that's where this is something which, when I saw your slides, I said I must put this also in
Yeah, these are clearly indicators of observed behavior on ground. You know what
on
he is
ground.
doing,
Yeah, what is
with
doing.
the personalities which he has come across.
Then the next thing which I did, and this is something which I keep doing on and off. The Chinese are very worried that their model will go the USSR way.
Yeah, that
So
happened.
yeah,
It
so
started
I
off in your Pink's time only.
yeah. So what is the left is the USSR model. The communist opacity hit their hollowness. The hollowness is now developing in China. Corruption
Yes.
was very high. Corruption is very high in China also. There's a loss of faith in communist ideology, which actually collapsed the Russian system.
Correct.
That is showing up today with increasing protests. Right? Uh, 2 days back or yesterday, day before, someone gave me a thing. I don't know whether it's right or not. I believe it is moving about in the social media circles. It says someone has said, "My grandfather worked for the CCP. My father worked for the CCP. I have worked for the CCP. I am very clear that my son will not work for the CCP."
Yeah, that is something which is a very telling statement.
Telling statement. If it is, and it is originated by obviously a Chinese. So there is some issue there in the loss of faith in the communist ideology. That they had dismal standards of living in USSR. The standards of living in China today are going down. You see
Especially,
today in the there are a slew of YouTube videos which talk
mm,
of people in debt, people putting behind bars, XYZ. Okay. Then there was elite infighting in the USSR model. Here it is absolute rigid control. Okay.
uh, correct.
Then this rigid USSR system could not reform. They were so rigid they couldn't reform. But here China is being subjected to double, triple reform. Every day
Yeah,
this fellow is coming out with something new.
something new.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
Gorbachev wanted reform, but could not reset the Stalinist model back to the Leninist principles, because Stalin was a hardliner. Was not so hardliner. He was the original communist.
absolutely.
Okay. Now Xi Jinping is reforming a open. You go back into DENG. Before DENG, it was a closed society.
He do
DENG,
he's doing the other way around.
other way around.
Lenin to Stalin.
Stalin. So will he falter? Okay. Personalities, personalized politics stunted institutions, especially during the Brezhnev era.
Yeah,
Same thing is happening now. Now,
correct.
inefficient government owned factories could not produce what the people wanted, and what the people needed was not produced. Now, there's a
Yeah,
question mark. Are these state owned enterprises of China in the same track? So the supply did not match demand in USSR. These two are question marks. We don't have conclusive evidence of this today in China. If this happens, you are feeling the USSR model replicating it completely. The Soviet
absolutely.
Union could not service its debt, the debt it had taken. China is in a debt bubble. Okay. Will that
Correct.
bubble sometime burst, or it will become unmanageable? We don't know.
Correct.
USSR had an oversized military. China is also moving to an oversized military. So if you see, today China has, I think, a least about 60 to 70%, similarity with the USSR model. And with what you have told about Xi Jinping, the chances of going the USSR way are quite,
Yes,
high.
I would like to add here, sir. One of the characteristics shows in group behavior,
Yes,
where both are shown as low, which means that they believed in group synergy, etc. But on ground, observed behaviors are different.
different.
Look at
So
the
there's,
USSR. Look at the USSR model, sir. Russia was the core, and there were the others. The Kyrgyzstanis and the
yeah.
Tajikistanis, and all those people were the out groups. They were the ones which just split away from there.
Yes.
The kind of thing which we are seeing in China, I think we may see something similar happening with
We'll see.
Tibet,
And
Manchuria,
there's also,
uh,
there's also a
Hong
history
Kong.
of,
Why not Hong Kong also? Very prime
yeah,
candidate.
possible. See, if you look at the Chinese history, there is one typical thing. First and foremost, the Chinese empire stopped at the Great Wall of China. After all,
Yes.
why did the Great Wall of China come? Because they wanted to protect the Han Chinese from outsiders.
Pessimist, sir.
No, apart from pessimists, actually
आएगा
the
मेरे पे हमला करेगा, मेरे पे हमला करेगा, मैं अपने आप
uh,
को बचाता हूँ, दीवार
no,
लगाता हूँ.
that is one way of looking at it. The deeper way I'm looking at it is that was the outer boundary. Anyone outside the other side was not China. So you wanted to protect China. The
That's
Chinese
second.
dynasty, it's a political boundary of your system.
Correct.
So anything outside the Great Wall of China is not Chinese.
Absolutely,
And
that's
the
the correct.
history of the Chinese empires and his dynastic history suggests whenever the Chinese center was strong, Tibet, Mongolia, Manchuria, and all these outlying islands were under their control. Whenever it was weak, these people raised their flag of independence or autonomy. So, are
Correct.
we going towards that as a question? I mean,
Yeah.
we will have to see,
that
right?
that that is there, sir. A little difference from that time and this time is that these guys don't have their own military forces,
Yeah,
etc. So
all
there
that.
is some
There is
of
difference,
yes,
but the issue which you have highlighted is that there could be separatist movements. In any case, they have a separatist movement in Xinjiang.
they have movements,
Uh,
they have
uh,
movements, they have
yeah.
movements.
So these
But
things could come up.
if the Han Chinese start collapsing, even if they don't have the military wherewithal,
Yeah, that things
these
will.
guys these guys will drift apart. And what are the neighboring countries doing, sir? What is Russia doing? What is India
They'll do
doing?
something. They'll do
What is
something.
Russia doing? What is India doing? What is Mongolia doing?
Yeah,
Its territory has been,
taken
carved
away.
away
It's
by
been
the
carved
Chinese.
out of, and yeah, I agree with
Yes.
you.
So I think somewhere we will see some kind of a thing if the way Xi Jinping is going along, sir.